I never expected much for my birthday. Maybe a few texts, perhaps a card from my aunt who never forgets. But what I discovered on my Facebook feed that day changed everything. There, in living color, was my family surrounding my younger sister Vanessa with balloons and gifts. The caption read, "The only one who deserves celebrating." On MY birthday, I commented, "Nice cake." My mother replied, "At least someone's worth baking for." That night, I smiled, replied, "Enjoy it, while you can." Then made one transfer and sent 2 emails. Before I dive into this story about family betrayal and what happened next, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe to hear more stories about standing up for yourself when no one else will. Trust me, you'll want to stick around to hear what happened when my sister's landlord called 12 days later. I woke up on my 28th birthday with modest expectations. That's how it had always been. I'm Natalie Morgan, and birthdays in our family were never a big deal, at least not mine. The sun filtered through my apartment blinds as I went through my morning routine, the same as any other Tuesday. A quick shower, a bowl of yogurt with granola, and 2 cups of coffee while scanning my email. No birthday messages yet, but I wasn't surprised. My mother, Diane, usually remembered sometime around dinner. My father, George, would be reminded by her. And my sister Vanessa? Well, she was perpetually absorbed in her own life. I straightened my blouse, grabbed my purse, and headed to the accounting firm where I'd worked for the past 4 years. The commute gave me time to reflect on past birthdays. The sweet 16 my parents forgot because of Vanessa's dance recital, the 21st spent alone because they were visiting Vanessa at college, the promotion celebration last year that they all left early because Vanessa called with an emergency that turned out to be a flat tire. Happy birthday, I whispered to myself as I pulled into the parking garage. At lunch, I scrolled through Facebook while eating my salad at my desk. That's when I saw it. Photos posted just hours ago. My family gathered around Vanessa in our parents' living room. Balloons. Gifts. A cake with candles. The familiar banner we used for special occasions hanging on the wall. The caption punched me in the stomach. The only one who deserves celebrating. Today. My birthday. And they were celebrating her. I rushed to the bathroom. Phone clutched in my hand and locked myself in a stall. My hands shook as I zoomed in on the photos. There was my mother, beaming with pride. My father, arm around Vanessa. Aunts, uncles, even my grandmother, who claimed she couldn't travel anymore. All there. For her. When I returned to my desk, my coworker Olivia Peterson glanced at me with concern. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost.
Ai fine. Ilid, forcing a smile.
Just a migraine coming on. I tried to focus on the quarterly reports in front of me, but my mind kept returning to those photos. At 3:45 p.m., I checked Facebook again. The post had dozens of likes and comments congratulating Vanessa on what exactly? It wasn't her birthday. It wasn't her graduation. Just a random Tuesday that happened to be MY birthday. My fingers hovered over the keyboard before I typed, "Nice cake." 15 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a notification. My mother had replied, "At least someone's worth baking for." I stared at the screen, her words burning into my retinas. Years of being the afterthought, the responsible one who never got the celebration, the recognition, the love, it all crystallized in that moment. I smiled, a calm settling over me like I'd never felt before, and replied, "Enjoy it, while you can." The favoritism started early. I can pinpoint the exact moment I realized my parents would always choose Vanessa over me. I was 8, Vanessa 5. I'd won the spelling bee at school, beating kids 2 grades above me. I rushed home, certificate clutched in my small hands, bursting through the door to tell my parents. "Not now, Natalie," my mother said, not even looking up. "Vanessa learned a new dance routine today. Show mommy and daddy, sweetie." I stood in the doorway, certificate crumpling in my grip, as my parents oohed and awed over Vanessa's clumsy twirls. Later, I taped my certificate to the refrigerator myself. It was gone the next morning, replaced by Vanessa's finger painting. As we grew, the pattern only intensified. Vanessa's Sweet 16 was an extravaganza with 50 guests, a professional DJ, and a designer dress. My 16th birthday, 3 years earlier, had been acknowledged with a store-bought cake after dinner. My mother claimed they couldn't afford more until Vanessa's turn came. "Your sister is more social," my father explained when I questioned the disparity. "She needs these things more than you do." In high school, I maintained a perfect 4.0 GPA, was editor of the yearbook, and got accepted to Northwestern University with a partial scholarship. My parents attended my graduation, but left the ceremony early because Vanessa, a freshman, had a minor role in the spring play that evening. "You understand, don't you, Natalie?" my mother said. "This is important to your sister." College was where the financial inequity became impossible to ignore. Despite my scholarship, I worked 30 hours a week at the campus bookstore and took out loans to cover the remainder of my tuition and expenses. Meanwhile, Vanessa attended Boston University entirely on our parents' dime, despite her mediocre grades and tendency to change majors every semester. "Your sister doesn't have your work ethic," my father said during a rare phone call. "She needs the support more than you do." When I graduated summa cum laude with a degree in accounting, my parents attended the ceremony, but spent most of it talking about Vanessa's semester abroad in Barcelona. At dinner afterward, they left early to drive to the airport to pick her up. At 22, after starting my first professional job, I finally confronted them during a Sunday dinner. "Do you realize how unequal your treatment has been?" I asked, my voice shaking despite my preparation. "Do you understand how it feels to always be an afterthought?" My mother looked genuinely confused. "Don't be dramatic, Natalie. We've always supported both of you equally." "You've always been the strong one," my father added. "Vanessa needs more guidance." "Being strong shouldn't mean being ignored," I said. Vanessa rolled her eyes. "God, Natalie, not everything is about you." The irony was staggering. 6 months ago, I received a promotion to senior accountant. When I called my parents to share the news, my mother interrupted me mid-sentence. "That's nice, honey, but guess what? Vanessa decided to drop out of her graduate program. Isn't that brave? She's going to find herself for a while. We're so proud of her for knowing what she needs." The last holiday gathering before my birthday incident was Thanksgiving at my parents' house. Vanessa announced she was quitting her third job in 8 months because it wasn't fulfilling. My parents nodded sympathetically, and my father promised to help with her rent until she found her passion. Meanwhile, my recent completion of the CPA exam went unmentioned, despite the hundreds of hours of study it had required while working full-time. My therapist, Elaine Zimmerman, had been helping me process these dynamics for years. "What you're describing is classic golden child and scapegoat roles," she explained during one session. "Your achievements are expected, therefore unremarkable to them. Your sister's minimal efforts are celebrated because the expectations are so low." "How do I change it?" I asked. "You can't change them," she said gently. "You can only change how you respond and what boundaries you set." I had tried. For years, I maintained the relationship, showing up to family events, remembering birthdays, sending thoughtful gifts. I called weekly. I listened to my mother's detailed accounts of Vanessa's latest adventures, while my own life received cursory interest. The week before my birthday, I had reminded my family during our Sunday phone call. "My birthday's next Tuesday," I said casually. "I was thinking maybe we could have dinner that weekend." "Oh, sweetie, we're busy on Saturday," my mother replied. "Vanessa needs help moving some furniture." "Sunday would work," I suggested. "Let me check with everyone and get back to you," she said. She never did. And now, staring at the Facebook photos of them celebrating Vanessa on my birthday, I realized they hadn't been busy at all. They had been planning a surprise party for her. I left work early that day, the words, "at least someone's worth baking for," echoing in my head as I drove home. Tears blurred my vision occasionally, but a strange calm had settled over me. 28 years of being the family afterthought had culminated in this ultimate betrayal, and something inside me had finally snapped, not into pieces, but into clarity. At home, I kicked off my heels and opened my laptop. I needed to understand exactly how intertwined my finances were with my family before I made any decisions. What I discovered over the next few hours shocked me to my core. 3 years ago, when Vanessa moved to Chicago after college, my parents had asked me to co-sign her lease. Just a formality, my father had said. She doesn't have credit history yet. What they had mentioned was that the rent payments were set up to come partially from my account, $500 a month that I thought was going into a joint investment fund with my parents for their retirement. I pulled up bank statements, tracing the money trail with growing disbelief. The family investment account my father had set up when I started my career didn't exist, at least not in the way he described it. Instead, my monthly contributions had been flowing into a joint account my parents controlled, from which they paid part of Vanessa's rent, utilities, and even her credit card minimums. She's struggling to find herself, my mother had said whenever I asked about Vanessa's career prospects. We're just helping her through this phase. I never realized we included me, without my knowledge. My hands shook as I pulled up the lease agreement I'd signed. There it was in black and white. I wasn't just a co-signer. I was legally the primary tenant, with Vanessa as an occupant. The landlord, Roland Hayes, likely had no idea we were sisters. From his perspective, I was renting the apartment and allowing Vanessa to live there. I picked up my phone and called Tyler Williams, my financial advisor. "Tyler, I need to understand my options regarding some financial entanglements with my family," I said when he answered. Over the next hour, Tyler walked me through my rights and responsibilities. As the primary leaseholder, I was ultimately responsible for the apartment, but I could remove myself with proper notice to the landlord. The automatic payments could be stopped immediately. The joint account with my parents could be frozen or closed, though my parents would be notified. "This seems sudden," Tyler noted. "Are you sure you want to make these changes all at once?" "I've never been more certain of anything," I replied. After hanging up, I researched tenant laws in Illinois. Chicago had specific ordinances protecting tenants, but also clear procedures for ending lease agreements. I read every word, taking careful notes. Then I researched apartments in Vanessa's price range, her actual price range, without my subsidizing her lifestyle. I wasn't trying to make her homeless. I just wanted her and my parents to face reality. For a moment, doubt crept in. Was I overreacting to a birthday slight? Was this too extreme a response to years of emotional neglect? I reopened Facebook and stared again at the photos. The caption mocked me, "The only one who deserves celebrating." My mother's comment burned anew. "At least someone's worth baking for." No, this wasn't an overreaction. This was long overdue. This was me finally acknowledging what my family had shown me for years. I was valuable to them only as a resource, never as a person deserving celebration in my own right. I made a list of the actions I needed to take, considering each carefully. This wasn't about revenge. It was about justice and self-respect. I wouldn't be cruel or malicious. I would simply stop enabling the dynamic that had caused me pain for decades. My plan took shape over a glass of wine and a birthday cupcake I'd bought myself at the bakery near my apartment. By midnight, I knew exactly what needed to be done. First, I would stop all automatic payments related to Vanessa's expenses. Second, I would email Roland Hayes explaining that I would no longer be responsible for the apartment after the required 30-day notice period. Third, I would email my parents informing them of these changes, not as a threat or a negotiation tactic, but as a simple statement of fact. I wouldn't be cruel, but I would be clear. I wouldn't engage in emotional arguments. I would simply disentangle myself financially and let the chips fall where they may. As I blew out the single candle on my cupcake, I made a wish, not for revenge, but for freedom from the role I'd been cast in since childhood. Tomorrow would be the first day of my new life, one where I valued myself even if my family didn't. The morning after my birthday dawned with unusual clarity. I woke before my alarm, made coffee, and sat at my kitchen table with my laptop. The house was quiet, matching my inner stillness. The storm of emotions from yesterday had settled into a steady resolve. First, I organized all the relevant documents, the lease agreement, bank statements showing the transfers, emails from my parents about the investment account, and screenshots of yesterday's Facebook exchange. I created a folder on my desktop labeled Financial Independence, because that's what this was about. Not revenge. Independence. At 8:30 a.m., I called my friend Stephanie Rivera, a lawyer specializing in family law. I need some advice on disentangling my finances from family members, I explained, outlining the situation. You're well within your rights, she confirmed after hearing the details. Just make sure everything is documented and communications are clear and unemotional. This isn't about punishing them. It's about establishing proper boundaries. Exactly, I agreed. After our call, I logged into my bank account. With 3 clicks, I canceled the automatic payment to the joint account my parents controlled. Then I transferred that money, $500, into my personal savings account instead. It felt symbolic somehow, this first act of reclaiming what was mine. Next came the emails. I crafted them carefully, revising multiple times to ensure they were factual and unemotional. To Roland Hayes, the landlord. Dear Mr. Hayes, asterisk. I am writing to inform you that I will be removing myself as primary tenant from the apartment at 1742 Lakeview Avenue, currently occupied by Vanessa Morgan. As per the lease agreement, I am providing 30 days notice of this change, asterisk. Please note that effective immediately, I have canceled all automatic payments from my accounts for this property. I understand that I am responsible for rent during the 30-day notice period, which I will pay directly via check to ensure clarity, asterisk. I have attached the relevant sections of our lease agreement for reference. Please contact me at your earliest convenience to discuss the transition process, asterisk. Sincerely, asterisk. Natalie Morgan, asterisk. To my parents, Mom and Dad, asterisk. I am writing to inform you of changes to my financial arrangements that will affect Vanessa, asterisk. Effective immediately, I have stopped all automatic payments from my accounts that have been supporting Vanessa's living expenses. I have also notified her landlord that I will be removing myself as primary tenant after the required 30-day notice period, asterisk. I was never consulted about these financial arrangements. They were presented to me as investments for your retirement. I cannot continue to financially support Vanessa without my consent, asterisk. This is not open for discussion or negotiation. It is simply information you need to plan accordingly, asterisk. Natalie, asterisk. I read both emails 3 times before sending them, checking for any emotional language that might undermine my position. Finding none, I clicked send on both within minutes of each other. Next, I called Wesley Clark, a notary I'd worked with professionally, and scheduled an appointment for that afternoon to update my will and financial directives. I had previously listed my parents as beneficiaries and emergency contacts. That needed to change. I spent the morning securing my finances further, changing passwords on all accounts, removing my parents as authorized users on my credit card, a remnant from college I'd never updated, and checking my credit report to ensure there were no other financial connections I'd overlooked. At lunch, I went for a walk to clear my head. My neighbor Benjamin Foster was walking his dog and waved. "Happy birthday, Natalie," he called. "Any big plans?" I was surprised he remembered. We weren't close, just friendly neighbors who collected each other's mail during vacations. "Just a quiet day," I replied with a smile. "Sometimes those are the best." "True enough," he agreed. "Though you look like you're carrying the weight of the world. Everything okay?" "It will be," I said. "I'm making some long overdue changes." When I returned home, I checked my email. No responses yet, which wasn't surprising. My mother rarely checked email more than once a day, and Roland Hayes was probably busy with other properties. The afternoon passed with a strange mix of anxiety and relief. Part of me kept checking my phone, expecting angry calls or texts. Another part felt lighter with each hour that passed, as if I was physically shedding a burden I'd carried for years. By evening, I'd met with Wesley, updated my legal documents, and prepared a simple dinner for myself. I opened a bottle of wine I'd been saving for a special occasion and poured a glass. "Happy birthday to me," I said to the empty apartment, and for the first time that day, I actually meant it. I slept surprisingly well that night, dreamless and deep. Whatever storm was coming, I was ready. I had taken the first step toward valuing myself in a way my family never had, and regardless of the fallout, I knew I wouldn't regret it. The first 3 days after sending the emails passed in strange silence. No responses, no calls, no texts. I checked my spam folder repeatedly, wondering if somehow I'd missed their reactions. Nothing. The silence itself became a weight, a held breath before the plunge. I threw myself into work, grateful for the quarter-end rush that kept my mind occupied. Still, I caught myself checking my phone more frequently than usual, bracing for the inevitable explosion. On the 4th day after my birthday, it finally came. A text from Vanessa at 10:37 a.m. There's some kind of banking error. My rent payment got rejected. Can you check your account? Asterisk. Not an error. A correction. I typed a simple response. Not an error. I've discontinued financial support for your apartment. Check with mom and dad. Asterisk. 3 dots appeared immediately, disappeared, appeared again. Finally. WTF, Natalie? Is this because I didn't call on your birthday? I was going to. Asterisk. I didn't respond. This wasn't about a missed birthday call. It was about 28 years of imbalance. That evening, my mother called. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to her message while making dinner. Natalie, what is this nonsense about Vanessa's apartment? Your father and I need you to call us back immediately. This isn't like you to be so irresponsible. Irresponsible. The word hung in the air. I, who had been responsible for myself and apparently part of Vanessa's lifestyle, was being called irresponsible for finally setting boundaries. I texted back, Asterisk, I'm not available to discuss this tonight. The email I sent explains everything necessary. Asterisk. The next day at work, I found it difficult to concentrate. Olivia noticed my distraction during our team meeting. Rough week, she asked afterward. Family drama, I admitted. It's been building for years. Want to talk about it over lunch? My treat. Belated birthday lunch, actually. I saw it on the company calendar. I was touched. Someone had remembered. Over sandwiches at the cafe across from our office, I gave Olivia an abbreviated version of the situation. She listened without interrupting, her expression growing increasingly indignant on my behalf. That's seriously messed up, she said when I finished. No wonder you've seemed stressed. Good for you, for finally standing up for yourself.
Thanks, I said.
I'm still processing it all. Well, for what it's worth, I think you're handling it with a lot more grace than most people would. Her support meant more than I expected. It was validation that I wasn't overreacting, that my feelings were legitimate. That evening, to my surprise, my father called. Unlike my mother and sister, he rarely reached out directly. Natalie. His voice sounded tired. Do you have a minute? I do, I said cautiously. I got your email. About the financial arrangements. Yes.
A pause.
I owe you an explanation. You do.
He sighed.
It started small. Vanessa needed help with security deposits after college, and we were short that month. You just started your job, and we're so proud of being able to contribute to the family. We meant to tell you. But you didn't.
No.
Another pause. It just became easier to keep it going. Vanessa has never been good with money, you know that. So instead of teaching her, you decided to secretly use my money to enable her? When you put it like that. He trailed off. Look, your mother doesn't know I'm calling. She thinks we can talk you out of this. But I understand why you're upset. It was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever heard from my father regarding Vanessa's preferential treatment. I appreciate that, Dad. But I'm not changing my mind. I know. I just wanted you to know that I get it. And I'm sorry. After we hung up, I sat in silence for a long time. My father's call had unsettled me more than my mother's angry voicemail or Vanessa's texts. There was a recognition there, however small, that they had wronged me. Days 7 through 10 brought escalating messages from Vanessa, ranging from angry accusations to tearful pleas. I responded minimally, stating only facts without emotion. Yes, I was the primary leaseholder. Asterisk. No, I will not continue payments. Asterisk. Yes, the 30-day notice period is standard. Asterisk. No, this is not negotiable. Asterisk. Roland Hayes, the landlord, responded professionally to my email on day 8. Ms. Morgan, asterisk. Thank you for your notice. I've updated our records accordingly. As the primary leaseholder, you are responsible for the rent through June 15th, after which your obligation will end. Please note that your sister will need to either qualify for the lease on her own or vacate the property by that date. Asterisk. I've attached the necessary paperwork for transitioning the lease. Please sign and return at your earliest convenience. Asterisk. Regards, asterisk.
Roland et astérisque.
I signed the documents immediately and sent them back, copying my parents to ensure transparency. On day 9, I met with Elaine, my therapist, for our regular session. The past week had been such a whirlwind that I nearly canceled, but I knew I needed the support. How are you feeling about the steps you've taken? She asked after I'd updated her. Conflicted, I admitted. Part of me feels guilty, like I'm punishing Vanessa for our parents' favoritism. Another part feels liberated. And a small part is still that 8-year-old girl hoping this will finally make them see me. All of those feelings are valid, Elaine said. This is a significant change in long-established family dynamics. It would be strange if you weren't experiencing complex emotions. My father called, I told her. He actually acknowledged they were wrong. How did that make you feel? Validated, but also sad that it took this for him to see it. Elaine nodded. As we've discussed before, sometimes it takes a dramatic change in behavior to disrupt entrenched patterns. You're not responsible for their reactions, only for your own boundaries. On day 10, I met with Tyler Williams again to ensure my financial separation was complete. He confirmed that all automatic payments had been stopped and that the joint account with my parents showed no recent activity. They haven't tried to withdraw funds or make changes, he noted. That's a good sign. Or they're planning their next move, I said. Either way, your assets are secure now. As day 11 dawned, I felt a strange calm. No new messages had arrived overnight. The storm seemed to be pausing, gathering strength perhaps. I knew from experience with family conflicts that this silence didn't mean resolution. It meant preparation. Sure enough, that evening, I received a text from my mother. Family meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m. Your presence is required. This has gone far enough. Asterisk. I didn't respond, but I knew I would go. This confrontation had been brewing for 28 years. It was time to face it head on. Day 12 arrived. I knew it would be significant before it even began. I woke earlier than usual, my body tense with anticipation. At work, I moved through my tasks mechanically, my mind already at my parents' house, rehearsing what I would say and what I wouldn't. At 2:17 p.m., my cell phone rang. Vanessa's name flashed on the screen. I almost declined the call, but something told me to answer. Hello. What the hell did you do? Vanessa's voice was shrill, tearful. My landlord just called and said I have to either qualify for the lease on my own or get out by next month. He said you removed yourself from the lease. Yes, I said calmly. I sent an email explaining this last week. I thought you were just being dramatic. I didn't think you'd actually do it. Her voice cracked. How am I supposed to afford this place on my own? You know what I make at the gallery. You've had 3 years to build credit and savings, Vanessa. The fact that you haven't isn't my responsibility. This is so typical of you. Always so perfect, so responsible, looking down on everyone else. Is that really what you think of me? I asked quietly. That I look down on you? God. Natalie, I can't deal with this right now. Mom and Dad are furious. They're saying you're having some kind of breakdown. I'll see everyone tonight, I said. We can discuss it then. You're really coming? Mom wasn't sure you would. I'll be there. After hanging up, I requested to leave work early, citing a family emergency. My boss, Catherine Maxwell, had always been understanding about personal matters. Everything okay? She asked. It will be, I replied. I just need to handle something important. Take the time you need, she said. Your reports are already ahead of schedule. I drove home to change clothes and gather the documents I'd organized the previous week. This wasn't a casual family dinner. It was essentially a trial, and I needed to be prepared. I chose my outfit carefully. A navy blue dress that I wore for important client meetings, professional but not intimidating. I wanted to appear calm and collected, not aggressive or defensive. At 5:45 p.m., I pulled into my parents' driveway. My mother's car was there, my father's too, and Vanessa's beat-up Honda was parked crookedly near the mailbox. Everyone had arrived early, probably to align their stories before I got there. I took a deep breath, gathered my folder of documents, and walked to the front door. Before I could knock, it swung open. My mother stood there, her expression a mixture of anger and concern. "Finally decided to explain yourself?" she asked by way of greeting. "Hello, Mom," I said, stepping past her into the house. The living room was arranged like an intervention. My father in his recliner, Vanessa on the couch, tissues clutched in her hand, her eyes red from crying. An empty armchair faced them all, clearly meant for me. "Sit down, Natalie," my father said. "We need to talk about what's been going on." I sat, placing my folder on my lap.
I'm listening.
"What were you thinking?" my mother burst out. "Canceling payments, emailing Vanessa's landlord, threatening her housing security? Is this some kind of revenge because we were busy on your birthday?" "This isn't about my birthday," I said. "Though the party you threw for Vanessa that day was certainly illuminating." "It wasn't a party for me," Vanessa interjected. "It was a celebration because I sold my first major piece at the gallery. It just happened to be on your birthday." "Which none of you acknowledged," I pointed out. "And Mom, your comment about someone being worth baking for made it pretty clear how you feel." My mother had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. "I was just teasing. You've always been so independent. We didn't think you cared about birthdays." "I've always been independent because I had to be," I said. "I've never had the luxury of depending on anyone else." "That's not fair," my father said. "We supported you through college." "Did you?" I opened my folder and removed my student loan statements. I have $42,000 in student loans. I worked 30 hours a week through college while maintaining a 4.0 GPA. Meanwhile, you paid Vanessa's full tuition, room, and board at a more expensive school, despite her changing majors 3 times and barely maintaining a C average. Your sister needed more support, my mother said defensively. And now we get to the heart of it, I said. Vanessa always needs more. More attention, more money, more support, more celebration. And I'm always expected to need less. To understand. To sacrifice. We never asked you to sacrifice, my father protested. I pulled out bank statements next. Really? Then explain these payments from my account to Vanessa's landlord. Payments I was told were going into a family investment fund for your retirement. My father paled. My mother looked confused. What is she talking about, George? She asked. Interesting. So my mother hadn't known about the financial deception. That explained her genuine confusion in her initial messages. It was temporary, my father said weakly. Vanessa needed help with rent after college, and we were short that month. It was just supposed to be for a few months until she got established. That was 3 years ago, I said. And no one ever told me where my money was really going. Vanessa looked stunned. I thought Mom and Dad were helping with my rent. I had no idea it was coming from you. And that's the problem, I said. None of you considered how your actions affected me. I've been the family ATM, the responsible one who's expected to help but never need help herself. The one who doesn't need birthdays acknowledged or achievements celebrated because I'm strong and independent. That's not true, my mother said, but her voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? When was the last time any of you asked about my life? My goals? My struggles? When was the last time you celebrated my achievements with even a fraction of the enthusiasm you show for Vanessa's smallest accomplishments? Silence fell over the room. My father stared at his hands. My mother looked away. Vanessa wiped fresh tears. I'm not doing this to hurt any of you, I continued, my voice softening slightly. I'm doing this because I've finally realized that I deserve better. I deserve to be seen and valued in this family. And if that's not possible, then at least I can stop enabling the dynamic that's hurt me for years. So what now? My father asked. You're just cutting us off, abandoning your sister when she needs you. I'm not abandoning anyone.
I'm establishing boundaries.
Vanessa is 25 years old. It's time she learned financial independence, just as I had to. And what about us? My mother asked. Are you cutting us off too? That depends on you, I said honestly. I'm open to rebuilding our relationship, but only if it's based on mutual respect and equal treatment. I can't continue in a family where I'm valued only for what I can provide, not for who I am. This is ridiculous, my mother said, standing up. You're being overly dramatic about everything. So we forgot your birthday.
So what?
Grow up, Natalie. Diane, my father said sharply. Sit down. My mother looked surprised at his tone but complied. Natalie is right, he continued. We've treated her unfairly for years. I've seen it, and I've been complicit in it. Dad. Vanessa began, but he held up a hand. No, this needs to be said. We've expected everything from Natalie and nothing from you, Vanessa. We've celebrated your mediocrity while taking Natalie's excellence for granted. And I've been dishonest about financial matters, which is unforgivable. So you're taking her side? My mother asked incredulously. This isn't about sides, I interjected. This is about acknowledging reality and making changes. What kind of changes? Vanessa asked, her voice small. For starters, complete financial separation. I will not contribute to your living expenses anymore, Vanessa. You need to either qualify for your apartment on your own or find a more affordable place. But I can't afford it on my own. My job at the gallery barely covers groceries. Then you need a better job or a cheaper apartment, I said. Just like I had to work through college, you'll need to work more or adjust your lifestyle. And what about us? My mother asked. What changes do you expect from us? Acknowledgement, I said. Acknowledgement of the favoritism, the unfair expectations, the taking me for granted. And a commitment to change. To see me as a daughter worthy of celebration and care, not just as a resource. And if we don't agree to these terms, my mother asked, her voice cold. Then we'll have a very distant relationship, I said simply. I won't subject myself to more of the same treatment. I value myself too much now. My father nodded slowly. You're right, Natalie. And I, for one, am sorry. Truly sorry for how we've treated you. The sincerity in his voice brought unexpected tears to my eyes. In all our family conflicts, I'd never heard such a straightforward apology. Thank you, Dad, I said quietly. Vanessa looked between us, then sighed heavily. I didn't know, she said. About the money, I mean. I thought Mom and Dad were helping me. But I guess I have taken you for granted too. My mother remained silent, arms crossed, expression closed. So what happens now? My father asked. Now, I said, gathering my documents and standing up, we all have decisions to make. About what kind of family we want to be. About what kind of relationships we want to have. I've made my position clear. The rest is up to you. I walked to the door, pausing before opening it. I love all of you, I said. But I love myself too. And that's something I should have learned a long time ago. As I drove home, I felt lighter than I had in years. The confrontation hadn't resolved everything. My mother's resistance made that clear, but truth had finally been spoken. And that was a beginning. The weeks following the confrontation were a strange new territory for our family. The carefully maintained facade had cracked, revealing the dysfunction beneath, and none of us quite knew how to navigate the exposed landscape. My mother's initial response was predictable. She retreated into wounded silence, then attempted to rally extended family to her cause. I received concerned calls from my Aunt Patricia and Uncle Raymond, both delicately probing about my issues with the family. Your mother is worried about you, Aunt Patricia said. She says you're having some kind of breakdown. I'm actually healthier than I've been in years, I replied. But I understand why she might see boundaries as a breakdown. Families should support each other, Uncle Raymond admonished during his call. I agree completely, I said. That's exactly what I'm asking for. Mutual support, not one-sided sacrifice. To my surprise, my cousin Rachel Bennett called a few days later. I know Mom and Dad called you, she said. I just wanted you to know that not everyone is buying Aunt Diane's version of events. Some of us have seen how they treat you versus Vanessa for years. Her support was unexpected and deeply appreciated. My father, true to the remorse he'd shown during our confrontation, made consistent efforts to rebuild our relationship. He called regularly, asked thoughtful questions about my work and life, and, most significantly, began individual therapy. I need to understand why I participated in the favoritism, he told me during a coffee meeting 2 weeks after the confrontation. I love both my daughters. I never meant to hurt you. I know, Dad, I said. Intent and impact are different things. That's exactly what my therapist said, he replied with a sad smile. Vanessa's reaction was the most complex. The initial shock and anger gave way to a confused sort of identity crisis. Her entire self-concept had been built around being the special one, the one who needed extra care and support. Finding out that much of that support had unknowingly come from me, and that it was now gone, sent her into a tailspin. She alternated between tearful apologies and resentful accusations, sometimes within the same conversation. Her texts would start with, "I understand why you're upset," and end with, "You're punishing me for how Mom and Dad treated you, which isn't fair." The landlord situation forced her hand, however. Roland Hayes was firm about the lease transition. Either Vanessa needed to qualify on her own, or she needed to vacate. Her gallery job didn't provide nearly enough income to qualify, and our parents, still reeling from the confrontation, were hesitant to step in. "What am I supposed to do?" she wailed during a phone call. "Live on the street?" "You have options," I said calmly. "Get a roommate. Find a better-paying job. Move to a less expensive apartment." These are the kinds of decisions most adults have to make. It's so easy for you to say that. Everything always comes easily to you. Nothing has come easily to me, Vanessa. I've worked for everything I have. Now you need to do the same. A month after the confrontation, my mother finally reached out directly. Her email was stiff and formal, but it was communication. "Natalie, asterisk. Your father suggests we attempt family therapy to address the concerns you've raised. While I maintain that you have overreacted to perceived slights, I am willing to participate for the sake of family harmony. Asterisk. Please let us know your availability for an initial session. Asterisk. Mom, asterisk." It wasn't an apology or even an acknowledgement, but it was a step. I agreed to the therapy, and our first session was scheduled for the following week. Dr. Marcus Holloway specialized in family dynamics. His office was neutral territory, the seating arranged to avoid any sense of sides. My mother arrived last, sitting stiffly beside my father. Vanessa perched nervously on the edge of her chair. I sat calmly, having already met with Dr. Holloway individually to explain the background. "I understand there's been a significant shift in your family recently," Dr. Holloway began. "Who would like to share their perspective first?" My mother immediately launched into her version of events, how I had suddenly cut off financial support for Vanessa, how I was punishing everyone because of a forgotten birthday, how I had always been difficult and overly sensitive. Dr. Holloway listened patiently, then turned to me. "Natalie, would you like to respond to what your mother has shared?" "This isn't about a single forgotten birthday," I said. "It's about a lifelong pattern of favoritism, of my achievements being ignored while Vanessa's mediocrity is celebrated, of being valued only for what I can provide rather than who I am." Over the next hour, Dr. Holloway skillfully guided us through the tangled history, gently challenging my mother's denials, validating my experiences, and helping Vanessa understand her role in the dynamic without shaming her. By the end of the session, my mother hadn't admitted to anything, but she had at least listened without interrupting, progress, however small. Meanwhile, Vanessa faced her financial reality. Unable to qualify for her current apartment, she found a smaller place with a roommate, a fellow gallery employee named Brittany, who was also struggling with Chicago's high rents. "It's actually kind of nice," she admitted during a cautious lunch meeting 3 months after the confrontation. "Brittany and I split everything 50-50. I've never had to make a budget before. How's work? I asked. I got a second job, she said, looking down at her salad. The gallery doesn't pay enough, like you said. So I'm also working at Nordstrom 4 evenings a week. That must be challenging. It is. I'm tired all the time. She looked up. Is this how it was for you? In college, I mean when you were working and studying. Pretty much, I said. I had no idea, she said quietly. I was just having fun at BU while you were. God, I was so oblivious. It was the first time Vanessa had shown real understanding of our different experiences. 4 months after the confrontation, my mother invited me to dinner. Just me. Not Vanessa, not my father. We met at a neutral restaurant, both of us slightly overdressed and overly polite. Your father tells me I need to listen, she said after we'd ordered. So I'm listening. I took a deep breath. Mom, all I've ever wanted is to be seen and valued equally in this family. Not better than Vanessa, not more important, just equal. We've always loved you both equally, she said automatically. Love isn't just a feeling, Mom. It's actions. It's celebrations and support and attention. And in those ways, the love in our family has never been equal. She started to object, then stopped herself. Examples, she said. Give me specific examples. So I did. Birthdays forgotten, achievements ignored, financial support withheld while it was lavished on Vanessa. I spoke calmly, without accusation, simply stating facts. To my surprise, my mother didn't argue. She listened, occasionally wincing, occasionally nodding. When I finished, she was silent for a long moment. I don't think I realized, she finally said. It just seemed natural to give Vanessa more attention. She was louder, more demanding. You were so self-sufficient. Being self-sufficient was my adaptation to being ignored, I said gently. It wasn't my nature. It was my survival strategy. My mother looked genuinely startled by this perspective. I never thought of it that way. It wasn't a full acknowledgement or apology, but it was the first crack in her denial. We finished dinner with tentative conversation about safer topics, my work, her garden club, but something had shifted between us. 5 months after the confrontation, we attempted our first full family dinner. It was awkward, stilted, with conversations starting and stopping like a car with engine trouble. But we were all there, all trying in our own ways. Vanessa arrived late, apologizing. Sorry, I came straight from work. Both works, actually. I just finished a shift at Nordstrom. How's the new apartment? My father asked. Small, she admitted, but affordable. And Brittany's a good roommate. And the gallery? I asked. I might be getting promoted to assistant manager, she said, a hint of genuine pride in her voice. Turns out showing up consistently for a year makes you management material. My mother served dinner. Nothing elaborate, just a roast chicken with vegetables. As she placed the platter on the table, she cleared her throat. I've been thinking about what you said, Natalie, about how we celebrate achievements in this family. She looked uncomfortable but determined. I want to acknowledge your promotion last year. I know it's late, but congratulations. You've always been exceptional at whatever you set your mind to. The acknowledgement, however belated, brought unexpected tears to my eyes. Thank you, Mom. That means a lot. It wasn't perfect. My mother still occasionally slipped into old patterns. Vanessa still sometimes expected special treatment. But slowly, steadily, the dynamic was changing. We were all growing, adapting, learning to relate to each other in healthier ways. And I was learning too, learning that maintaining boundaries didn't mean cutting people off, that speaking my truth didn't require anger, that family relationships could evolve if everyone was willing to do the work. 6 months after the confrontation, I sat in Elaine's office for our regular therapy session. How are things with your family? She asked. Better, I said. Not perfect, but better. More honest. And how are you feeling about yourself? I considered the question. Stronger. Clear about who I am and what I deserve. Less willing to compromise my worth for approval. Elaine smiled. That's the real victory, isn't it? Not changing them, but changing how you value yourself. I nodded. It is. And the funny thing is, once I truly valued myself, that's when things actually started to change with them too. As my 29th birthday approached, I found myself in unfamiliar emotional territory. Last year's birthday had been the catalyst for tremendous change, but it had been marked by pain and confrontation. What would this year bring? 6 months had passed since the family meeting that had broken open decades of dysfunctional patterns. 6 months of therapy, individual and family. 6 months of tentative steps toward healthier relationships. 6 months of learning who we could be to each other when truth replaced pretense. 2 weeks before my birthday, my phone rang. It was my mother. Natalie, do you have dinner plans for your birthday weekend? Your father and I would like to take you out. Nothing elaborate, just a celebration. The hesitation in her voice touched me. This was new ground for her too. I'd like that, I said. Saturday would work well. Perfect. We've made reservations at Antonio's for 7 o'clock. Antonio's was one of the nicer restaurants in town, not extravagant, but certainly a step up from the casual family dinners we'd been having during our reconciliation process. Should I invite Vanessa? I asked, testing the waters. Actually, my mother said, she's already part of the plan. But this is your celebration. We're all coming to honor you. The words honor you from my mother's lips were so unexpected that I found myself momentarily speechless. Natalie? Are you there? Yes, I managed. That sounds lovely. Thank you. The night of my birthday dinner arrived. I dressed carefully in a new dress I'd bought specially for the occasion, emerald green, a color I'd always loved but rarely wore. As I applied my makeup, I studied my reflection. I looked different somehow, more confident, more at peace. My doorbell rang at 6:30. To my surprise, it was Vanessa alone. I thought I'd ride with you, she said. If that's okay. Of course, I said, grabbing my purse. Everything all right? Yeah, she said as we walked to my car. I just wanted a few minutes with you before dinner. Once we were driving, Vanessa turned to me. I've been doing a lot of thinking about everything that happened, about how I never really saw you, how I took without giving back. Vanessa. No, let me finish. This is important. She took a deep breath. The past 6 months have been really hard, working 2 jobs, living with a roommate, budgeting every penny. But they've also been clarifying. I understand now what you've been doing your entire adult life. What I never had to do because you and Mom and Dad sheltered me from it. I kept my eyes on the road, but I could feel the sincerity in her voice. I'm not angry anymore, she continued.
I'm grateful.
Not for how it happened, but for what it forced me to become. I'm more independent now, more capable, and I like who I'm becoming. I'm proud of you, I said, and meant it. You've handled the changes with more grace than I expected. She laughed. Not at first. I was a complete mess for weeks. But eventually, I realized I had 2 choices, keep being a victim or grow up. I finally chose to grow up. We arrived at Antonio's to find my parents already seated. My father stood as we approached, pulling out chairs for both of us. Happy birthday, Natalie, he said, kissing my cheek. You look beautiful, my mother added, and there was genuine warmth in her eyes. Dinner was surprisingly pleasant. My mother had clearly made an effort to prepare topics of conversation that centered on my interests and achievements. My father spoke openly about his therapy journey, acknowledging patterns he'd learned from his own father that he'd unconsciously perpetuated. I never wanted to play favorites, he admitted. But I realized I was more comfortable with Vanessa's needs because they were emotional, not practical. Your self-sufficiency intimidated me somehow. That's insightful, Dad, I said, touched by his honesty. Therapy, he said with a self-deprecating smile. Expensive, but effective. After dessert, a chocolate soufflé with a single candle that the entire restaurant staff sang for. My mother cleared her throat. We have something for you, she said, placing a small wrapped box beside my coffee cup. Inside was a delicate gold necklace with a small diamond pendant. It's beautiful, I said, genuinely surprised. It was your grandmother's, my mother explained. I've been saving it. I always intended for you to have it, but I never found the right occasion.
She paused.
Or rather, I never made the right occasion. I'm trying to do better with that. Thank you, I said, blinking back tears. This means a lot to me. There's something else, my father said, handing me an envelope. Inside was a card signed by all three of them, and a check for the exact amount of student loan debt I still carried. We can't undo the past, my father said. We can't go back and support you through college the way we should have. But we can do this now. Dad, this is too much, I protested. It's exactly enough, he said firmly. It's what we gave Vanessa. It's what you deserve too. The equity of it, the acknowledgement of past imbalance, moved me deeply. I don't know what to say. Say you'll accept it, my mother said. Let us do this one thing right. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. Vanessa reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I have something for you too, but it's at home. Can we go back to your place after dinner? At my apartment, Vanessa handed me a clumsily wrapped package. Inside was a handmade scrapbook. As I turned the pages, I saw photos of us growing up, many I'd never seen before, along with ticket stubs, program booklets, and other mementos from achievements of mine that I thought no one had documented. Where did you get all this? I asked, amazed. I've been working on it for months, she admitted. Some of it I had. Some came from Mom's boxes in the attic. Some I tracked down from old teachers and friends. I stopped at a page that held a certificate, my spelling bee win from when I was 8. The very one that had disappeared from the refrigerator all those years ago. You kept this? I asked, stunned. Vanessa looked embarrassed. I took it. I was jealous that you were so smart. I hid it in my treasure box. She met my eyes.
I'm sorry, Natalie.
For that and for so many other things. The apology, so specific and so heartfelt, broke something open inside me. Tears came, not of pain but of release. Vanessa hugged me, her own tears falling. I love you, big sister, she whispered. I'm sorry it took me so long to show it properly. In the months that followed, our family continued to heal and grow. My relationship with my mother improved steadily, though we still occasionally hit rough patches when old patterns tried to reassert themselves. She joined a support group for parents working to repair relationships with adult children, which gave her perspective beyond our specific situation. My father became my most steadfast ally, often serving as a bridge when communication with my mother became strained. His willingness to acknowledge his part in the family dysfunction opened space for genuine connection between us. Vanessa thrived in her newfound independence. Her promotion at the gallery came through, allowing her to reduce her hours at Nordstrom. She and her roommate Brittany became close friends, supporting each other through the challenges of early adulthood. As for me, the internal changes were as significant as the external ones. I no longer felt the need to prove my worth through achievement or self-sacrifice. I began dating again after a long hiatus, meeting Marcus Reynolds, a kind and insightful architect who valued my strength without exploiting it. My boundaries remained firm, but not rigid. I could now distinguish between healthy giving and self-depleting sacrifice. I could love my family without losing myself in the process. 6 months after my 29th birthday, Vanessa called with exciting news. She'd saved enough for a down payment on a small condo. The bank pre-approved me for a mortgage, she exclaimed. Can you believe it? Me, a homeowner? That's amazing, I said, genuinely proud of her. When can I see it? That's why I'm calling. I'm going to look at a few places this weekend. Would you come with me? I value your opinion. The fact that she asked rather than assumed my help was a testament to how far we'd come. Of course, I said. I'd be happy to. After we toured several properties, Vanessa fell in love with a small but charming one-bedroom condo in an up-and-coming neighborhood. The price was at the top of her range, but the location was excellent. What do you think? She asked as we sat in a nearby cafe, discussing the options. It's a lovely place, I said. The neighborhood is great, and the building seems well-maintained. But the monthly payments would be tight on your current income. You'd have very little margin for emergencies. She nodded, considering this. You're right. Maybe I should keep saving for another year. I hesitated, then made a decision. What if I helped with the down payment? Not a lot, just enough to lower your monthly payments to a more comfortable level. Vanessa looked surprised, then suspicious. Why would you do that? After everything? Because I want to, I said simply. Because I can afford it, and it would make me happy to help you in this specific way. But only if you want it, and only as a gift, not an obligation. I don't know, she said. I've been so proud of doing this on my own. You have done it on your own, I assured her. You've saved, improved your credit, qualified for the mortgage. This would just be a sister helping a sister, the way families should. She studied me for a long moment. Is this really different from before? From how mom and dad used your money, without asking? It was a good question, one that showed how much she'd grown. Yes, I said. Because it's my choice, offered freely and transparently. Because you didn't expect or demand it. Because it's a single gift with clear boundaries, not an ongoing subsidy. And because our relationship now is based on mutual respect, not one-sided sacrifice. She considered this, then nodded slowly. If you're sure, then yes.
Thank you.
And I promise, I'll never take your generosity for granted again. 2 weeks later, I attended the closing with her, writing a check that helped my sister begin a new chapter in her life. As we toasted with champagne in her new, empty living room, I realized how far we'd come from that Facebook post on my 28th birthday. The journey hadn't been easy. There had been pain, anger, grief, and loss along the way. But there had also been growth, truth, healing, and ultimately love, real love, based on seeing and respecting each other as we truly were. My 28th birthday had been the day I finally stood up for myself, the day I decided I deserved more than being an afterthought in my own family. And now, approaching 30, I had something I'd never fully had before, a family that saw me, valued me, and loved me not for what I could give them, but for who I was. I couldn't have asked for a better gift.
So, what about you?
Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members? How did it change your relationships? Share your experiences in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if this story resonated with you. Remember, sometimes the hardest conversations lead to the most meaningful growth. Thank you for being here, and I wish you the courage to claim your worth in every relationship in your life.